Your turn, Yugi boy.
What is up, guys? This is Olympio coming at you with a card discussion today, and one that I feel is quite underlooked and possibly can affect the meta and can help people if they're slightly budget in side deck cards that they want to go against some of the meta decks. So the card that I'm going to talk about today is Dimension Fortress Weapon. Now this card is a level 4 dark machine with 1700 attack and 200 defense. And the effect reads as follows: cards cannot be sent from the deck to the graveyard. Now straight away, this is a pretty interesting card in my opinion, because it hits one of the biggest decks out there currently, which are Shadows. Cards cannot be sent from the deck to the graveyard. That straight away in my mind hits two decks. As I said, one with the Shadows, two Lightsworns. That absolutely wrecks them. The interesting things about this card is the fact that it has 1700 attack. It's pretty big in my opinion. While it's a dark, it has obviously interesting attributes that all darks have. It can be used in certain decks. It can also be used in conjunction with cards like Allure of Darkness, fodder for BLS, so on and so forth. The card is quite interesting, and it's one that I picked up when it was really cheap. It still is very cheap. Now it came out as a super rare in Crimson Crisis, so it's not exactly difficult to pick up because that set wasn't the greatest from what I remember. It's not like Starstrike Blast that is just brutal. Now everything's expensive. If we just talk about the card itself and how it can combo up and how it can really hurt some of those decks, it might change your mind and might make you consider picking it up. Now there are a lot of side deck cards that can go against Lightsworns, that can go against Shadows, go against Stellar Knights, anything that sends cards from the deck to the graveyard. There are of course a lot of different cards that can be used. For example, if a deck is graveyard based, you have obviously the Macrocosmos, you have the D-Fissures, then you also have certain things like Debunk, you have the Mirrors, Light Imprison Mirror, Shadow Imprison Mirror. All these cards are very good side deck cards. But why should you consider Dimensional Fortress? Well, it doesn't suffer from being a spell or trap, so it can't be Mystical Space Typhoons. That's one big thing that is certainly interesting. If your opponent knows you're going to side hard with spell and traps, they're obviously going to up the ante with more back row removal. Dimensional Fortress has 1700 attack, which I think is not bad attack at all. A lot of cards that are utilised, like for example Banisher of the Radiance, have quite low attack. I think Banisher has 1300 attack, and it suffers from being able to be punched over quite easily. With 1700 attack, it makes it a little bit easier to stand on its own without having any support. If you summon Dimensional Fortress against Lightsworns, for example, first turn, it might be a little bit of a struggle. They might have to utilise their Lila to crash into it, or their Raiden, or anything like that, but they do have things like Garroth that they can get over it with. But a lot of people don't play Garroth in multiple quantities. They only have one, and if they draw the one out, then you know, there's not really much you can do about it. But if you are going first, you still have 4 cards that you can possibly protect it with. I feel that the card is very interesting, and with Shadows running around and sending everything to the grave, with Shadow Fusion, sending one from the deck for example, they can't do that, so they can't actually fulfill the requirements. So you can stop them summoning their Winder or their Construct, and it's quite an interesting card. It's one that has flown under the radar, and you might think it's flown under the radar for good reason because it's jank. You might think it's just not worth it. It gives up your normal summon, which makes it a problem because you can't get rolling with certain decks that might need to keep their normal summon. And you might feel more safe with spell or traps because it doesn't really take up that much room, because it doesn't really impede, as I said, on your normal summon. But it's one card that I think everyone should really consider, and one that I am, quite interested. And in testing, just in some games, it's actually proving to be a little bit of a bothersome card for a lot of decks. As I said, Lightsworns do struggle against it if they don't have their outs. If I can protect that card, it does win me some games. Obviously, it's a lot more useful early game. For example, Lightsworns get rolling, then they already have the names in the grave for JD. They already have attributes for the BLS, the Chaos Sorcerers, or whatever. It's just something that I feel is one that should be really considered. So I want to know what you guys think of the card. Is this one card that you've thought about before? Have you always been running this card, or is this the first time you've even heard of the card? As, the set is quite old. So, as I said, let me know down in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I should catch you guys later.